Take a look at this setup. It's a little bit more complicated. Let's say you have the black pieces. White has two options, either e3 or e4. Let's take a look at both. If I play e3, what should you do? You play f5. Now let's look at this position and say that I play e4 on the first move. What would you do? So in this position we can see that if white plays e3, black's best move is f5. If white plays e4, black's best move is f6. And in both cases, white will lose a pawn because he had to move first. So in fact, if you go back, whosever move it is in this position will lose. Take some time and work that out on your own. Take a look at this position. What's white's best move? Good job. The point here is that any move that black makes will self-destruct. Black's in Zugzwang. If he plays c4, d takes c4, wins a pawn. If he plays d5, e takes d5, wins the game. And if he plays g5, white can play h takes g5. Now we're going to have to learn one of the more tricky rules of chess. En passant. French for in passing. This is how it works. Let's say that a white e-pawn has advanced to the 5th rank. Effectively, this pawn is keeping an eye on the f and d pawns of black because of the following rule. If either of those pawns advances 2 squares, the white pawn has the option of capturing it diagonally, as if it only moved 1 square. So if d5, white can play e takes d6. There are 2 important stipulations to remember. First of all, this is a one-shot deal. If white chooses not to capture the pawn immediately after d5, then he'll lose the chance forever. Also, say white has a pawn on e5 and black has a pawn on d6. If black plays d6 to d5, white cannot capture en passant. This rule only applies if a pawn is moved 2 squares forward, passing an enemy pawn that is residing on its 5th rank. And don't forget that you only have one chance. Here are a couple exercises that involve en passant. So in this position, black plays d5. Show me all white's possible captures. Good job, but there's more. Keep looking. Good job, but there's more. Keep looking. Good job. Pawns capture diagonally, whether it's en passant or a normal capture. In this position, black plays b5. Show me all white's possible captures. White can't capture en passant on b6 because the black pawn only advanced 1 square. Good job. The only capture is c takes d6. Now let's learn about the king. The king is the most valuable piece in the game, because if we lose him, it's all over. The goal in chess is to capture the enemy king while providing sufficient protection to your own king. But despite its precious nature, the king is not terribly mobile. In this position, the white king on e5 can move to all of these squares. It's easy to remember how the king moves. It can move 1 square in any direction, as long as that square isn't defended by an enemy piece. So here the white king can move to any of these squares. In this position, with the king on c2, the king can move to these squares. So remember, a king can move diagonally, horizontally, or vertically 1 square whenever it wants to. In the beginning of the game, we want to keep the king safe, protect him behind a phalanx of pawns. But later, when there is less danger lurking, we can use the king actively. With its dependable pattern of motion, the king can be a very powerful short-range warrior. It's critical to learn how to judge when the appropriate time is to activate the king. I'll develop this in the endgame section of the course. So you know how the king moves. We also know that the goal in chess is to capture the king. Whenever the king is threatened, it's called check. In this position, if white plays the pawn from e4 to e5, we know the pawn's captured diagonally, the black king is in check. This is marked with a plus mark, by the way, in notation. So here this would be e5, check. The black king would have to move, and we can see that the black king could move to e6, e7, d7, c7, or c6. The black king couldn't move to c5 or d5, or capture on e5 because the white king defends those squares. It's an illegal move for a king to ever move to a square where it can be captured. This is called check. So, when you're in check, you can just move out of the way. The real goal in chess is checkmate. In this position, white can play e7, which is checkmate. The black king is attacked, but it can't move anywhere. The c8 and e8 squares are defended by the white d7 pawn. The e7 pawn of white attacks the black king, and the white king defends that pawn, defends the d7 pawn, and also guards the c7 square. Black can't go anywhere. This is called checkmate. This is your goal in chess. There's one more way for the game to end. In this position, it's white's move. What can he do? Well, any answer you gave would have to be wrong because there's no square you can move to. c1 and e1 are guarded by the black d2 pawn. e2, d2, and c2 are guarded by the black king. So in fact, white can't move anywhere, but white's not in check. This is called stalemate. The game is drawn. So we know if we attack the king, it's check. The king can move away. If we attack the king and the king can't go anywhere, that's checkmate. The game is over and the player who delivered the checkmate wins. Stalemate is when you cannot make any legal moves with your king, but you're not in check. The game is drawn. Now let's do some exercises to get used to king moves. Here, touch all the squares the white king can move to. In this exercise, white's in check. What do you think the best move is? Here the white king is in check. What is white's only legal move? Here white is in check. What's the best move? In this position it's white's move. I'd like you to take a moment and think it out. Stalemate is a theme here. It is a theme here. White to play. By moving the rook is a very powerful